Lindsey Halligan is in the news again for all the wrong reasons. Not only does she have a major hearing, I am sure she is not handling for her office tomorrow in front of Judge Curry, who's handling the decision about whether the two motions filed by James Comey and Letitia James to have Lindsey Halligan dismissed to be declared illegally appointed as the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. And then we'll talk about what that means for their indictments. That's not all. We also have new reporting that an organization called Campaign for Accountability has filed a bar complaint against Lindsey Halligan to try to take her Florida and Virginia, if she even has Virginia bar license, away from her. And all this, as a magistrate judge handling the Comey matter, has required that all of the grand jury material, audio and documents and transcripts that Lindsey Halligan handled for James Comey be turned over to him. Judge Curry, the judge handling the motion to disqualify Lindsey Halligan, she has all the grand jury material. What did Lindsey Halligan say in that room? And on top of that, you got a whole group of former federal judges who have filed a brief that will be seen by these respective judges that call for the dismissal of Lindsey Halligan as being improperly appointed. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF on Wednesday. Let's tie it all together. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., there will be a hearing in Alexandria, Virginia. Judge Curry coming up from South Carolina. She was appointed from outside the jurisdiction to handle one particular matter, whether the motions to dismiss for improper appointment, motion to dismiss the indictment, and motion to dismiss effectively Lindsey Halligan should be granted or not. That's in front of Judge Curry. She's coming up South Carolina, Virginia, 10 a.m. From our team, Adam Klasfeld, All Rise News, is traveling as we speak or soon to Alexandria, where he will be in the courtroom. And he'll try to do some live reporting on Legal AF Substack with me in real time about what he observes. What we know for now is that the matter is fully briefed. And we know the arguments because we just got the last filing by the Comey and Letitia James side. And let me just kind of run through it with you so that you understand what the arguments are. There's a statute called the Vacancy Reform Act, 28 U.S.C. 546, that says that in the case of an appointment of an interim U.S. attorney, the president gets one appointment. It lasts for 120 days, gives him time to get a permanent appointee appointed and confirmed through the Senate. Maybe the same person, maybe a different person. If it doesn't happen in the 120 days, that's it for the president in terms of appointment and or his attorney general. It then turns to the district judges who have for years been appointing interim U.S. attorneys for the district. Now, is there an issue about separation of powers between the executive branch and the judicial branch about a officer of the executive branch? Maybe, but that's for another day. For now, 546 says you get one appointment. Trump has been trying to do an end run around all of this by arguing that he gets multiple 120-day appointments. Then why would you have a 120-day limit, is the argument. If you could just, on the 119th day, appoint the next one and keep doing that ad infinitum, then why would Congress have written a 120-day limitation in it? Donald Trump's interpretation writes out that portion of the statute. So the argument goes. And the way it worked in the Eastern District of Virginia is that there was a U.S. attorney. She resigned on Inauguration Day. They then appointed Eric Seibert, who was, until he was fired and or quit, who was a Republican, who had the backing of the two senators for Virginia. He would have got confirmed, but Donald Trump didn't like the fact that he refused to indict Letitia James and James Comey. So he got canned. Well, that was the 120-day guy. He's gone. And now it turns to the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia. And Donald Trump's argument is, no, I can keep doing a series of 120 days. And he's never by the way, there's nobody that's even been nominated. And Lindsey Halligan knows in her heart she's never going to get confirmed. She's not there to be confirmed. She's there to indict people that Donald Trump wants her to indict. That brings us to the Barr complaint that's been brought against her. So later tomorrow, we're going to know at least how receptive the Judge Curry is to the arguments. The motions for Comey and Letitia James have been joined together and consolidated. They will be argued in seriatim, in front of this judge. We may not get the order that day, but we're going to get a good sense for the way Judge Curry questions both sides about where she's at. She may even rule from the bench. We'll know better tomorrow with Adam Klasfeld in the courtroom. Now, let me turn to a new complaint that was filed by Barr complaint against Lindsey Halligan. The Campaign for Accountability posted this on their website. I will put this up on Legal AF Substack. Complaint against Lindsey Halligan, Florida Bar number 109481. One word to Campaign for Accountability. The Florida Bar is actually referred to as the Florida Bar. I'm a member, not Florida State Bar. But in any event, the rest of it is right. They're a nonpartisan charitable organization. And here's the allegations they made. They said that Lindsey Halligan, through her actions, this is on page 2, as set forth in further detail, has violated Rules of Professional Conduct 3.3A1, requiring candor to the court, 1.1, requiring competence, 3.6, prohibiting extrajudicial statements, 3.8, prohibiting the prosecution of a charge the prosecution knows is not supported by probable cause, and 8.4, prohibiting conduct involving dishonesty, deceit, misrepresentation, or conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. She also has violated, they claim, her oath to support the Constitution of the United States and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of an attorney. And as their evidence for that, they talk about how she was sworn in just hours after Donald Trump demanded her to be made into an instant prosecutor. They say on page 5, when career prosecutors, including Mr. Seibert, declined to indict Ms. James, Mr. Pulte, who was with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and an enabler of Donald Trump, encouraged President Trump to fire Seibert and replace him with a more malleable attorney. President Trump agreed, and on September 20th, 2025, in the apparent mistaken belief he was sending a direct message to Attorney General Pam Bondi, he instead posted on Truth Social, "Pam, I've reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam, Schiffy, Shift, Letitia, spelled wrong. That's all. They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. We have a great case. And legal pundits say so. Lindsey Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. Over nothing. Justice must be served now, President DJT." Ms. Halligan was sworn in less than 48 hours later. The Comey grand jury, they then go through all the mistakes and missteps by Lindsey Halligan within the grand jury. This is the same thing that Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick is looking at in reviewing the transcripts, and Judge Curry, who is handling the hearing tomorrow about disqualification. They then go through the James indictment and all the problems with the James indictment and all the things that are wrong and the evidence that was left out to the grand jury in order to conjure up this frame job of a mortgage fraud indictment against Letitia James. They then talk about reporter Anna Bauer and the Signal correspondence where she started to have a conversation with a reporter, Anna Bauer, about the Letitia James case in real time, in which she revealed information about the grand jury. In fact, I have an interview that we did with Anna Bauer, and here's a clip.
We knew that there was a story here. But of course, we wanted to make sure that we were diligently fact-checking everything. We needed to confirm that it really was her. It took us a few days to obtain her phone number, and to actually, make sure that and confirm that it really was her. We went through the process, as I said, of speaking with experts who could speak to us about how unusual this story is. And then also, I was not entirely sure whether she was done talking to me. And a part of journalism, is just trying to see whether there is a possibility of a relationship there. And we had to make a decision like, we've got something that's clearly newsworthy, but also does she really want to open a line of communication with me? Because at the beginning of the conversation, even though she was, expressing her dissatisfaction with my reporting, she also said at one point, before you report, feel free to reach out. And that's an incredible, opening for, I'm reporting on these cases. So of course, if the U.S. attorney is offering for me to reach out to her and ask her questions about the case that she personally is prosecuting, of course I'm going to try to see and feel it out. And we're on the record and she's offering to answer questions. So for a few days, I tried to see if she was serious about that. It quickly became clear to me that she was not. She started, I don't know if maybe she just thought better of what she was doing and the outreach, but she started, stop responding to my messages. And so then we started going through the process, of writing the story. But I just really want to underscore that, like, this is the kind of thing that is so risky for a prosecutor to do. There can be a host of consequences for talking to a reporter on the record about an ongoing prosecution, which is why prosecutors typically don't do it.
So that showed up. And then they go through methodically each of the rules of professional conduct and the rules that have been violated by Lindsey Halligan, which should pull her Florida bar license. Now, I'm going to tell you, and they end it this way: the committee has a responsibility to stop Ms. Halligan from abusing her position and her Florida bar license for improper purposes. Failing to discipline Ms. Halligan under these egregious circumstances will embolden others who would use our system of justice for their own political ends. Oh, I wonder who they're talking about there. Respectfully submitted, Michelle Cuppersmith, Executive Director, Campaign for Accountability. Now, let me just give you a little managed expectations here. There was a similar bar complaint that was filed against others like Pam Bondi. I think it might have even been by the same group. And the Florida bar took the position that while these people are in federal office, they were not going to do anything about their underlying bar license. And unless and until they leave office, which for Lindsey Halligan could be like any minute now. at the rate she's going. But they're not going to do anything unless and until they're out of federal office. So this is important for them to have brought this complaint. I think my next report is going to be the Florida bar rejected it. And they shouldn't. And I'm a member of the Florida bar, and I'm outraged by them not policing the underlying bar license. She doesn't get to be a federal prosecutor without a bar license. She doesn't get to argue in a federal court without a bar license from some state. That state happens to be Florida. They should be continuing to regulate her and let the federal bar regulate her as well. But here, this is where we're at. Grand jury materials are in the hands of two different judges. Judge Fitzpatrick, the magistrate judge for the Comey indictment. Judge Curry for the entirety of both Comey and Letitia James in order for her to make her ruling. Now, the fact that Judge Curry wanted the grand jury materials is very interesting because she doesn't need it to do the statutory interpretation under Section 546. The statute either says what it says or it doesn't say what it says. The facts are clear. There's no dispute on the facts. So she doesn't really need it for that. She needs it for remedy. She needs it to decide whether she's going to kick the indictment. She calls Lindsey Halligan the indictment signer. She won't refer to her by name going into the hearing. And this is also spoiler alert: Lindsey Halligan is not going to be arguing this hearing tomorrow. There is no way. It's going to be one of her out of district attorney U.S. attorneys that she was able to pull out. I mean, even Washington, I don't think is going to come down to argue this. I'd be shocked if anybody from Maine Justice, Todd Blanche isn't going to argue this. Pam Bondi's not going to argue this. Stan Woodward's not going to argue this. It's going to be some low-level assistant U.S. attorney from some office you've never heard of who's going to argue this while Lindsey Halligan does what she always does, according to court reporters. And I want to ask Adam Classfield about this. Just sits there and rocks back and forth, almost like in a fetal position. She's going to be in a fetal position, I think, after this ruling. I'll continue to follow it. You're here on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button, and come over to Legal AF Substack, where I post all of the documents that I just talked about. Become a paid member for $7 a month, and now you're helping us grow. And if you just double check to make sure you're a subscriber here for free, because we're about to cross 1 million, and I want you to be part of the 1 million, the march to 1 million subscribers. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.